And here we are in all of its royal glory, the stomping grounds. Well, thank you again for joining us for another episode of Leather Mosaic. I'm really excited to be back in Tucson, my old stomping grounds, and I have Skylar here with me, who is the current education director of Desert Dominion, the greatest fucking king club in the world. Bar none, or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I can agree with that.
It's good. It's a fair statement and claim.
It is,
I've been all over this country, and it just seems like Tucson and the people here, they're all welcoming, laid back, and mellow, and Dee Dee's always been a great home to come back to. And it's fantastic to see new volunteers coming in and kicking us old farts out. No.
I wouldn't call you old yet. Not yet. I think because it was the first place the first kink club that I came into, it was very interesting to see the dynamic of people. Mm-hmm. It was just so different. And I was completely different when I came into it. I've been on a completely transitioning journey myself. When I came in, I was she, her. I was a completely different person. I had a completely different name. It's been a very long, drawn-out process. Right. I went through a major psychological trigger in January of 2018 that triggered me to change my name and go through my whole transition of everything. So it was crazy.
Okay, so just then beginning a little bit about yourself. So how were you always kinky, and were you always here in Tucson, or was there a catalytic event that you're comfortable sharing, or?
Catalytic event that moved me to Tucson was my grandmother passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. She had congestive heart failure, and we knew that she was not doing well. She passed away in 2010 or 11. I can't remember the exact year. And then I moved out here when my dad was like, well, we're selling the house. You can't live here anymore. It's the end of no holds bar. Like, we're not going to let you pay the mortgage or anything. Just it's gone. So I was like, fine, I'll move out here and live with my mom, who was out here. And then I was like, okay, cool. And I'd always been interested in kink. Like, it was always the first thing I went to whenever I wanted to read, like, anything erotic, any type of porn I went to, it was always kinky. So, and I started off my kink journey in Second Life.
Oh my God, Second Life.
Yes.
Wow.
So I had a daddy on Second Life, and I had a whole kink family on Second Life, which was amazing. And I still keep in touch with them. Some of them create leather in New Zealand and build all kinds of stuff, collars, cuffs, and things like that. So
that's so wonderful to hear. Second Life is I remember logging into that, and it influenced me to get into skydiving, of all things, because you could find, people would sell, people could make devices, and someone could make parachutes, and so you would fly in, go up to the top of a building, and then jump off, and then try not to splat, but there was like a little fake drop zone, and but then I remember too, there was like a rubber fetish club. You could put on your gas mask, and the dance motions were not very creative or working out that well.
No, it wasn't the greatest, but it was so much fun.
God, Second Life. I haven't heard that in such a long time. So I thought it was popular in the States, but then it wasn't that big after a couple of years at first. It seemed like it died off, but then when I was over in Europe, there were people just like logged into like call shops and cyber cafes all over the place. So it seemed like it had a much bigger European following.
Yeah, Europe had a really big following. New Zealand has a really big following, and Australia still really big, like, influx of people in Second Life. So my two friends from New Zealand actually had a leather wedding in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
And I got to go and be involved in it, and it was amazing, and I got to make real friends from this virtual reality, and really pushed me to find the kink community near me. And that's when I got on FetLife, and when I found the Munches here in town, and then I found DD, and through a mutual friend of ours, and who was the current education director at that time.
That's just fantastic to hear. And the funny thing is, it's the more current version of kind of some of the paths other people have had. For me, I found Desert Dominion through I had made a GeoCities webpage. I don't even, okay, this is sounding really old now.
I have no idea.
Does anyone know what GeoCities is anymore or anything? Oh my God. Okay. Because, it was the place where you could get a free website. And so they divide people up into neighborhoods. So the idea was a city. And so the one where they threw anything like, like kinky, queer, LGBT, anything too, you are at geocities.com/West Hollywood. Or anything is what they would put you as your neighborhood, and you'd have your site there. But there was a directory, because, God, this sounds so old now. There are people that had to manually add and categorize your website. Like you couldn't just submit it. So then you would actually see who else is on your street or neighborhood. And Desert Dominion had a GeoCities site, and it was this really cryptic. It was just gray background, black text with a Sparky logo, and there was a street address. Anything with it very primitive in its form, and I was terrified or anything to go. I mean, like I had, I just turned 18 and like had my car, and I drove by it several times and imagined, it was something like Eyes Wide Shut going on inside, or anything like just terrible or fantastic. Like these, I don't know. It was, but I went way off the rails. Or anything.
Was it still in the same warehouse that it's in now?
It was still in the same place, and the funny thing about it is, so it's great to see the iteration of improvements. When I had walked in, it's funny because people were like, "This is greatly improved," but back then when I walked in, it was the carpet. There wasn't a carpet. It was as if they had gone to just old like carpet shops and got remnants, and so the floor in the social area, it would be like shag white that's turned dark gray from people like walking around barefoot, whatever, God knows what, and then just blue polka dot all mixed and scattered.
I've heard about this carpet.
The walls were like light blue and then navy blue and like stained, and I think it had been an auto shop before.
Yes.
From what I'd remembered, and
actually, that front wall is actually a roll-up. It's supposed to be a roll-up wall. Where the lockers are at now.
Okay.
So we actually walled it in. They walled it in a while back before I became a member. So
we won't even. We'll get off of
all the improvements.
All the you're gonna make me jealous. Like we did nothing or anything, but no.
I think it's just the council that came in. We were a different group of people, and we had all different kinds of ideals, and we all wanted different things. I wanted an education committee, so I created an education committee. One of the past education directors is on it, and then another member of the club who does a lot of our outreach and a lot of our movement and things of that nature for the education committee. And then another thing that I wanted was, card processing, and the council itself wanted card processing, so I donated the computer. So it was one of those situations where as a council we just had different ideas of what each council member wanted, and we moved forward with them in a timely manner and a quick manner. So
the right combination of people, and it sounds like the right donations.
Yeah. It just made it happen, which was good. It was awesome.
Okay, and so I see that you've got some cow on.
Yes.
So
a little bit.
A little bit, and I don't envy you because it's the middle of summer in Tucson, and so we're probably sweating like hell, and I'll keep you from being tied up in that too long.
It's actually not too bad right now because I have a very thin shirt on underneath it, so I expect it to be a little hot. And this one's not as hot as some of the other ones that my friends have. So, and it has air vents on the back that are open. So, got a motorcycle one for that reason.
Nice. You're involved with the group then? Was it the Leather Club of Tucson? Or?
Yeah, I was one of the founding members of Leather Club of Tucson. I helped create the patch, and that was it's been a very long journey for all of us. So.
Yeah, and especially in Tucson, I feel like when there's, and that's kind of the beauty of it too, when there's an interest group starting up, there's like a sampling of everything, but then no one thing ever winds up like dominating in any like super majority. It's kind of it's a good and a bad.
Yeah.
Like
our thought process whenever we started the creation of the group was we wanted a pansexual, pan fetish group that could come out and be who we wanted to be and not be judged because we wanted to show that we were walking a leather lifestyle and we were not just gay men and we were not just, you know, gay women. We were a whole group of people, and that's where we were at in that process.
Okay, so then that leads to my next question. Are you guys meeting then at the Venture Inn, or I used to call it the Denture Inn, but like the...
We actually meet at one of our members' homes right now.
Okay.
So we don't have a bar per se that we meet at. The bar that we go to most of the time is the shelter though.
And so at this point in time, because I know starting anything in Tucson can be like an arduous one at a time process. So about like how many of you are there so far? Like
I think we have a membership of 17
okay.
members.
Do you, from the difference of, from what I will notice that when I came back, and I think it's very cool, there seems to be much more of, I want to say a genderqueer element than that's present amongst leather in Tucson. And so do you feel then, how do you feel identifying with that group? First explain to us, like, how do you identify?
I am genderqueer. Use they, them pronouns. I feel great identifying the way I do. I feel comfortable. I don't feel looked down on. There are some events that I go to where it's a little put offish sometimes, but not many anymore. My first, oh, this is going to be controversial.
Go for it.
We're going to just open this can of worms.
All right, let's.
My first Southwest Leather Conference was last year.
Okay.
That's why I said this is going to be a little controversial.
Hey.
But I felt a little out of place being someone genderqueer and of leather in that space, but not 100% out of place. It was just a little hierarchical, which I understood completely, but still didn't like it. Then there's other events like Sin in the City, as far as like big events are concerned, where I feel like I am at a place of brotherhood, sisterhood, folks that just love each other and are a family. And I have family in Las Vegas, I have family here, I have family in San Diego, just people all around the place.
Right, no, I mean, so. I don't feel it wasn't an unfair statement, quite honestly. Now that's probably the controversy, because I've been to, I think, I don't know, I think since like 2010 was my first one or anything, and watching the evolution of it, you know, I mean, unfortunately, it looks like it may not be happening this next year, but it was watching like issues of gender. I will say it seemed at first to be, from my time, more of a male-dominant heterosexual leather event. And when I first went to, you know, fine, let's just own it all out. When I went to my first Southwest Leather, my interpretation of leather was, because I had hung out in some bars in like Germany, and then, you know, I was going around New York, and so my entire interpretation of it was like, all right, I'm going to go to this Southwest Leather conference, I'm going to find a fuck ton of gay sex or anything like flat out, and we're going to be like partying, you know, like where's the poppers, everything like going on and like rocking out. And then it was completely more in the spiritual or the woo or something, and I felt like for a second I was like, maybe I'm doing this wrong or anything, maybe like I missed the page on what this is supposed to be now. And so I mean that was early on when I finally like started going to like actual formal events, and it then wasn't until later then, as I started exploring, there was a mixture of populations there, and this, I don't want to call it a paradigm war or like a clash of like what leather is or should be. I don't even want to call it a clash, because you would have a mixture of men and women, and at the time I would say there were, anyone like transgender was in a very pretty big minority. I would say. I think I met two, people that I identified as transgender, and I didn't meet anyone genderqueer identifying until maybe like 2014. Now, granted, it doesn't mean that there necessarily wasn't anyone there that I identified as that, but it seemed to be just evolution as things are going along.
And I think my thought process with like that type of event is I would like to see, because a lot of those spiritual ritualistic things are led by male-bodied individuals, and I would like to see more things led by queer, transgender, female-bodied individuals, and that for me would feel better in and of itself. And when we do things, when I try to get presenters at DD, I do try to get a good mix of both queer, trans, female, male individuals, because I want to see that mix, and I want the membership to see that mix. So
I think that's really cool that you take that into consideration. I will flat out own that when I was education director, and I'll defend it as a little bit of purity, but it's probably, I wish I had been thinking from that aspect. I was viewing everything as a curriculum of skill sets to hit or like topics to cover, but I never once gave any consideration as to the type of presenter or the background. The only thing I would make sure is like, this person's not locking people up in their trunk or anything, and that they're, or they actually have some clue about what they're teaching about,
Well, we still hit those metrics as well, but like a good mix of people that qualify for those metrics, but also meet this other standard. We have a lot of people here in town that are very good presenters that don't get the chance to, because, the door may not be open for them if you don't, say, hey, would you present on this subject? Could you make a class on this subject? If you don't poke and prod a little bit. So. Oh,
and see, now I meant that could have fed the whole circle of love too, because if I'd been thinking from that perspective also, there may be new members or new people coming that then they could have seen someone that they identified with more, and then that could have made them reinvest more in attending.
Yeah, that too. I think.
Shit.
I mean, I think that now it's come around to that is where we live and we learn, and I'm always learning. I love to learn. I learn about myself every day. I learn about people around me every day. Being a person in kink who has physical limitations, who has mental limitations, who has all of these things about myself, who I have to negotiate with myself more than I have to negotiate with other people. It's always a learning process. So. Okay.
And so, man, I know I'm trying to orbit us back towards controversy, but I admit it was juicy. So it's interesting because you have me considering then, if there hadn't been, and I apologize because I feel like ignorant for not knowing that many people that were genderqueer, identifying years ago, and because there just weren't many. So I'm kind of wondering if, by definition, if this is a younger movement of leather, then it seems like it's fair to say that.
No, I would say yeah.
And so
I would say it's also a comfort thing. I would say that now people probably feel more comfortable to say who they really are versus before. I don't want to say back then. Back then is such a horrible, but I think people just feel more comfortable to say who they are now than they did before. It's easier to say, hey, I am this person, now when there's other people around to support you, then saying, hey, I am this person, when you're that person out on a limb.
Yeah. Okay, so then do you think then, I would say, for the success of future events, or perhaps the reimagination of them, perhaps the boards need to be made up of a little bit more of this newer leather blood, or perhaps even there just needs to be entirely new events and the whole system needs to be shaken up a little?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like, I don't even think I have to explain that. Just yes to all of that. Like, I think diversity is our number one key to everything, and that's our superpower, is diversity. If we didn't have that superpower, we would be nothing.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Skylar, for sitting down and talking with
You're
us.
welcome.
I wish you all the best, and hopefully maybe we'll be joining forces and poking some Luddites with like swords off the boat. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry,
Yes.
that's really bad. Okay. Sorry.
No, I'm down for it.
We all love each other. We're all good.
Maybe.
Okay. No.
Maybe we love each other.
Well, thank you so much for being on Leslie Mosaic. Is it okay if I have a hug?
Of course.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. What are you doing with your hands?
My international it's all supposed to be consistent.
Yeah, it means it's recording. How about, okay. Let's do
That was the greatest.
That will be the after credit, like, your moment of zen.
The blooper.
Like, there you
I love it.